Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And once again, welcome to the back of the range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 221. So technically, I'm on vacation this week, but that doesn't mean that you won't have a brand new episode to listen to before I get back into the saddle next week and make that final push to 250 episodes before the end of the year. The fall season of college golf is winding down, and I figured that this would be as good a time as any to get away from golf courses and the impending hustle and bustle of South Florida. So I packed up some cold weather gear and, yes, a camera and a microphone to record this intro, and I made it all the way out to Montana. Never been out here before, so I'm checking out Yellowstone, Bozeman, Big Sky, and if you're listening to this, I've probably already made it down to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. As I said, I'm taking some pictures because, how could you not? So if you want to follow along during my off week, go ahead, follow on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. The link is in the show notes of this episode. Before we get to this week's guest on the back of the range, do I have a treat for you all? Yours truly, yes, Ben Adelberg is the latest guest on the Clubs and Corks podcast, which is co-hosted by Luke Taylor and Ben Curtis. Yes, that Ben Curtis, 2003 Open champion Ben Curtis. They have an excellent podcast with a clear taste in bringing the best talent on as guests. They talk wine, golf. It's very fun to listen to, and even more so to actually be a guest on the podcast. Some of their guests have also been at the back of the range. Conrad Ray from Stanford, Brandon Wu, Ryan Jameson. They have a wide variety of guests. They have instructors, architects, coaches, players. So go check out my episode. Add this podcast to your rotation of golf podcasts. They also have a video compliment where you can look at my face for an hour straight. I wouldn't recommend that, but the link is in the show notes. Go look up Clubs and Corks. It's available everywhere, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And don't worry, these two knuckleheads, yes, did I really just call Luke Taylor and a major champion knuckleheads? These two guys, and that's not even the worst thing I called them. But anyways, these two will be guests on the back of the range very soon. I have to get them back for what they did to me at the end of my episode. Not my proudest moment, but it's hysterical nonetheless. Stay tuned for their episode coming up soon at the back of the range. Moving back over to my podcast, as you all know, I get asked the question all the time, who was your favorite guest? And I've been asked that a lot. It's really impossible to answer. They're all good. They're all fun, but, to each their own. But one type of episode that I always enjoy is when I find out that my guest took an uncommon route to success. When they grow up in one place and then they end up in another, and then all of a sudden they're on their way. My guest on this episode is Noah Steele. How does a kid from Kingston, Ontario, Canada, find his way to Huntsville, Texas to play college golf at Sam Houston State University with Will Holcomb? See, I got you hooked. I got a member of Team Canada on the podcast. He's going to share his story and also a Will Holcomb story. All this while I'm on vacation. Incredible. Noah's story is fantastic. We spoke about his success obtaining his Mackenzie Tour card for 2022. And as you're listening to this episode, he's at Latin America Q School. So the episode is live, which means the mojo is activated. I know everyone here will be pulling for him. As always, if you like this podcast, please share it with your friends and family. Go subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Every episode is available at thebackoftherange.com. And remember, photos, videos, everything I create while I'm on the road is on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. With that being said, let's get to this episode. Noah, you're at the back of the range. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. We've been trying to get this done. As this time of the year, I feel like I'm saying that with every single guest that comes on the podcast. Man, I'm sorry, I've been trying to get this done. But as you know, I've been traveling all over, and you've been traveling all over. Not even in this country. You're up in Canada, and we got a lot to cover. We're definitely going to have to get into a collegiate teammate story later in the episode. I'm teasing it early because you are a graduate of Sam Houston State University, and any listener of this podcast is immediately thinking of one person when they say Sam Houston State. Who's that person?
It's Will Holcomb
No.
for sure. The fifth. We need to
fifth.
make sure the fifth is in there. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We'll get to that at a later time in the episode, but thanks so much for being on. And as I stated, just coming out of Canada, I know you're having some great success on the Mackenzie Tour, picking up a win at the Osprey Valley Open. We'll get into what that has done for your plans moving forward. But Kingston, Ontario, Canada. Talk to me about where you grew up. Give me a little bit of information about growing up in Ontario.
Yeah, it's home. Kingston's where I'm from. I had someone ask like what home was like, and I was like, it's home. I'm looking forward to each time I get to be back there. I still base out of there mainly, but obviously we only have golf in Canada for 4.5, 5, 6 months, depending on where you live.
Right.
So spending the majority of my time in the U.S. is really how things have gone since I was at school. But Kingston's not crazy big. It's the home of Queen's University. It's one of its kind of main staples, if you will. But there's like 125,000 people, so not too crazy big. But typical Canada things. I mean, hockey is a big focus there, and whatnot. We have one golf course in the middle of the city that is where I play out of, Cataraqui Golf and Country Club, and the course that I grew up playing, the Landings, which is it's a par 63 golf course, 9 par 4s, 9 par 3s. That's there as well, and it's where my entire family is. My whole family is really there. Branches out maybe 30 minutes out of town, but that's it. So it's home. It's where I was born and raised, and I love it. It's a great spot.
And I think I believe I'm correct here. There's about 8 golf courses in the area of Kingston.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you're out on some glacier and in between hockey and ice fishing, you thaw out a golf course. I mean, we're not talking like you're out completely in the Arctic. I mean, this is golf is part of the culture there. I guess a lot of people. I mean, look, I'm a native South Floridian, so. I've been to Canada a couple times, don't know much about it, but as far as the golfing culture and history, but I think it's actually worth mentioning that like I said, it's not like there's no access to golf. I mean, you do have some sort of a culture there where it is part of the fabric, and a lot of people are playing in the area.
Yeah, absolutely, and you definitely. With the current times, the last 2 years or so, with everyone, more people getting into golf and that kind of thing, and just even at my home club, things being so busy where it's kind of a race to the tee sheet each week to try and get try and get a spot to play, which is great. And I always say, like, it's a good thing. It's good for golf. It's good for the courses and everything. They are busy, but it gives people a chance to be active and be outside and enjoy. Like you said, there's 8, maybe pick a different one each week or that kind of thing. And it's a great opportunity. I border New York State. So honestly, my house is 40 minutes or so from the US border there, which would head on down through like Watertown and Syracuse. So
right.
I'm not that far from the US. And I definitely made lots of trips driving across the border and whatnot. But
all legally, all legal.
Very exactly. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to, it's a very sensitive subject right now, trying to get in the United States. We're not going to cover that right now, but I'm just saying, okay. 100% legal.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% legal.
Okay.
So very similar weather to New York. So it definitely gets cold, but we have some very, very nice months to play golf. So it's a treat.
And you mentioned hockey. I mean, that is honestly, I'm guessing every kid grows up thinking that they're going to, play in the NHL and play professional hockey, or that's their passion. Did you kind of have a similar upbringing where it was all hockey and then something caused you to go to golf, or what was kind of your upbringing with sports? Because I'm also guessing that, like down here in South Florida right now, kids that want to play golf, that seems like it's more of the norm. What's it like when you're growing up as a kid and you maybe say to your parents or your friends, well, I'm a golfer. Are they looking at you like, no, but dude, you're lefty. You're going to be the next Gretzky. What's wrong with you? No.
Yeah, no, no. When I was growing up, I had the opportunity to play and try many different sports. My garage door at home is definitely proof that hockey was present
Nice.
at my house. There's a lot of dents in the door, which when I was little, I told my mom, I was like, "Mom, those are goals," and we just kind of went on with it from there.
There you go.
I missed the net plenty of times and went through many. Any Canadians that listen to it, many Hockey Canada nets, dented all the posts and broke the nets and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, hockey definitely played a big role in my life and is a big family sport for sure. My grandfather played, my uncle played, cousins played, everybody. So that was kind of definitely my first love in sport, and something that I put a lot of time into. I was on skates by the time I was 2 years old, and I was playing just a couple of years after that. So I was part of an all sport camp actually that had like a tennis and golf and maybe one or two others in it. Actually, I think it was at the Landings, the golf course I mentioned there a little bit ago. And funny story that I found out after the fact. I love the golf part, but I wasn't old enough for the just golf only camp.
Right,
so
okay.
my mom asked and asked and asked and said, like he'll be fine. Like he's mature for his age or whatever. Like he won't be a problem. Like, and she ended up baking banana bread to help get me into the camp.
Your mom is bribing with food.
Yeah,
Love it. Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of found out about that later on. And so golf was there, but golf was like a summer thing along with baseball. And so
Right.
those were kind of my sports. When I was in elementary school, I played the soccer, basketball, volleyball. I played a little bit of volleyball in high school. But I actually chose to stop playing hockey just with the overlapping of things. And I stopped playing baseball first, but stopped playing hockey going into high school, because that's where I was getting to the age where I was going to maybe try and play some junior golf in the U.S. and just make that a bit more of a focus. And so with costs, with just kind of getting a little bit more sports specific and getting older, it was just kind of time to make that decision. And I came up upon that myself. And yeah, and then it's been pedal down, loving golf and enjoying the journey ever since then. So I was really just given the opportunity to try, a bunch of different things and just the opportunity to be active. And I ended up finding a love for sport and now chasing it. Is hopefully what I'm going to do for a long time.
Yeah. So I'm not going to ask you the typical question of, what did the parents have to say when you come and say, Mom, Dad, I want to play golf? Because clearly if your mom is bribing camp officials with baked goods, then she's all on board, and I'm sure Dad's on board as well. But
Absolutely.
Right. So, but I guess my question is, how does that go over in high school? Because that's the time where, obviously when you're at that age in high school, everyone wants to be, in the in crowd. You want to be, the star quarterback maybe here in the States, or you want to be the star center on the high school or on the hockey team. What's that like when you go into high school and your friends are like, hey, so, we're going to play hockey. You're like, no, I'm a golfer.
Thinking back, honestly, like whenever people would ask her when I was that age in high school, saying like, oh, I play golf, that definitely, it wasn't yet like people weren't like, wow, that's awesome.
Right. Okay.
It's like, it's definitely like, oh, cool. And it's like, it was kind of left at that. It's not like, oh, like we can't go watch you in the gym, or we can't,
Right.
watch you play football, or, go to an arena and watch you play hockey, but that's good that you're playing golf and that kind of thing. And high, that's one thing I actually didn't really realize was just the difference in kind of seriousness, or like the preparation for like post high school athletics, like collegiate athletics, is just so different from Canada to the US, and the intensity, but just like the focus and the things that are available. Like honestly, like there were some athletes, like I was a very athletic graduation year. Like we had lots of great athletes that went on to do different things, from track to hockey to all kinds of stuff, to football. But I don't know. There's not like, that's not as much the mindset, right? So it's more of like, you're there, you're active, you're enjoying the sport, whether it's baseball, whether it's hockey, volleyball, basketball, golf, that kind of thing. And you're just enjoying it. And hey, if you maybe get the opportunity to do something down the road or grab it by the reins, that's great. But it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I found it surprising. Like, I didn't realize Friday Night Lights was actually a thing. Like, before I came down here, I just
Gotcha.
didn't know that.
So
Like,
basically,
we had
in
a set of,
Canada, so not to cut you off, but just to maybe kind of understand what you're
yeah.
saying. So basically, what you're saying is in Canada, or at least where you were, maybe the machine of getting you from high school to scholarship athlete in college maybe
Mhm.
wasn't as aggressive as you've realized it was in the States. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. No, and, you know, not good or bad or whatever, but it's just a bit of a different, you know, focus. Obviously we had like our higher performers and
Right.
that kind of thing, and people that knew that that's what they wanted to do and knew that that's what they wanted to chase. But like, people laugh, and you'll probably laugh as well. Like, our football, our football stadium, if you will, had a set of bleachers.
Okay.
like one or two, but like rugby and field hockey and soccer, they all played on the same one. And like, you know, like, I spent, like, anytime I watched the football game, I stood to watch. So it's just, when I came
Right.
down and saw like the high school football world, it's like, it was a very different deal.
Right.
So
Especially
yeah,
in
so
Texas, you're really going into the
yeah,
fire down there because that's, I mean,
that's right.
that's religion down there.
It is, for sure. So yeah, so no, it was, going back to, you know, your original question, you saying, yeah, I'm a golfer, that wasn't your in kind of thing into like the cool lunch group or
Right.
whatever,
Right.
necessarily, but I definitely was very happy to be doing what I was doing, so it was all good.
So, talk to me a little bit about. I mean, we're talking about Texas, just to
Mhm.
go back to the fact that you played collegiately and had a great career at Sam Houston State in Huntsville, Texas. So we
Mhm.
definitely need to figure out, which is always fun during these episodes when you have someone that grew up in one area of the country or in another country and then get to someplace completely different. I'm always fascinated. A lot of listeners really like hearing, like, okay, how does that happen? Like,
Mhm.
like you just mentioned, you're 40 minutes away from New York, so sure, I could easily see some northeastern college, D2, D1, what have you, that's right there, across the pond, so to speak,
Yep.
picking you up. Sure, that makes sense. But how does Sam Houston State University get their hands on a Noah Steele?
Yeah, no, that's very fair. I honestly, on the flip, I was relatively unknown in Canada as a golfer, until kind of my college years. I didn't play really any junior golf in Canada.
Okay.
So I think the first step to collegiate golf in Huntsville, Texas, was me making the move, to playing junior golf in the U.S., making that the focus. And back in, I think it was 2014, I played my first AJGA, like junior all stars junior event. So I played like 3 that year. I played a preseason, then I played 2 more events because of the performance based entry or whatever. So I moved my focus just down into the U.S. because kind of right from the get go, I'm like, well, my goal is to play Division 1 college golf, in the U.S., but I was enamored with playing in the state of Texas. So I was a very big Jordan Spieth fan as a junior,
There you
and like
go.
followed his career. And so honestly, he had a big part in me thinking, oh, like Texas might be a good place to go. And then like you'd see different players from different places that would find themselves in Texas and had college careers there at there's lots of lots of Division 1 schools in Texas. So at any of them, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like maybe wind, maybe grass, maybe this, that, and I just thought there would be a lot of opportunity there. Like I only played golf at home for 4.5 or 5 months, and
Right.
I knew that was a place where, even though I've come to find out that there's times of the year where it's maybe not that pleasant,
Oh
but
yeah.
it's still doable.
Right.
So those were kind of the main things. But I remember like the conversation with my mom saying, I want to play Division 1 golf in the state of Texas. And there began the pursuit of that. So I played Jordan Spieth's event in 2015, at the University of Texas, and I met Brant Kieschnick, who ended up being my college coach to be. And, we spoke on a similar level and whatnot from the get-go. Obviously me being much younger, but he talked and thought in a way that I felt I wanted to be led, and I felt safe going there, and that he had my best interest, in mind, and my mom was happy with everything, and my entire family. And and it was a go from there. So, I had the whole recruiting process. I had a lot of fun with that. I look back and I see like younger people going through it now. I'm like, wow, that's, like it's just so much to take in. But like looking back, I ended up in the right hands, and I was definitely questioned, like, why there? Why not go somewhere else? But there was definitely a reason for me to choose Sam Houston, and it did work out really, really well. So. So no, that's how I found my way to Texas, and I'm still sitting in Texas at this moment.
Yes, you are. Yeah. No, it's just so interesting, the journeys that different players take. And I know, you just said it right there. You were very fortunate to hit it off with your coach, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a great position. And as you said, there's so many different ways that could have gone. And we are around amateur golf a lot, and I'm around it and seeing kids going through recruiting processes, and it's a gauntlet to try and figure out, especially if you're playing a lot of tournaments. And it almost sounds like it was kind of maybe a little bit of a blessing in disguise to not play so much junior golf, where you had perhaps just not the absolute overwhelming nature of that process.
Exactly. Yeah. I almost like, I don't know, my stomach turns a bit when I listen to the conversation. It just, when I think back even of like how things could have gone so differently, and you think about the pressure that, like a younger person, teenager who's going through all kinds of stuff and doesn't really even know who they are yet.
Yeah.
And whatnot. And then you add in a decision that ends up having a big impact on things down the road. That's hard to wrap your head around, so I think, my surroundings and having a really good group of people, family, support system, coaches, all that made a big difference for me. But, I honestly don't want to do it again. I as much, like, I honestly felt like once I got to school, I'm like, well, like for the most part, my recruiting days are over. Like I have a couple buddies that are great hockey players and are having careers of their own, and the recruiting's never over for them.
Right.
Because they're maybe going from team to team, or, there's always someone watching. And that's definitely present in golf. Like when it maybe comes to future support or sponsors or whatever, or maybe an agent coming along, or just those kinds of networking connection, that kind of thing. But I don't know, like the recruiting or this or that, like I love that about golf, that it's a performance-based thing. It's on you, and you're doing it. So as much as it's an exciting time, it's amazing for me to think, wow, like that could have gone very different. Like I wouldn't have maybe met these people that now are, have a huge part in my life and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's cool to think about, but like I said, I honestly, in the nicest way, I don't want to do it over.
Well, yeah. Well, the good thing also, like you said about this game, like you said, if you put the scores up and your finishes are good, somebody is going to find you for that sponsorship deal, or they're going to help you, with exemptions, or they will pave the way where it will all work out. So,
absolutely, I like that.
Yeah. So we're gonna I feel we have to get this out of the way because it's just too good to prolong. I definitely don't want to hide a Will Holcomb story at the very, very tail end of this episode. So you go to Sam Houston. You're in Huntsville, Texas, and at some point you are on the same team. I mean, this is just an added bonus. I mean, you get an education, you get to play golf in Texas, and you get to spend an unlimited amount of time with Will Holcomb V. I mean, that's all included. Yeah. That's included with everything that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, he listens to this podcast, and when he's not, duck hunting or killing some elk or whatever the hell he's doing when he's not playing golf. Your first interaction with Will. Do you remember it? I mean, I know you have a Will Holcomb story. I'm going to let you share that, but you first meet Will. How's that go?
So I met Will on my visit. I met him and his dad, and
Oh my
you know,
God.
I came.
Will Will
Yeah,
Holcomb is the greeter?
yeah, oh yeah. So
Oh
it
my
it
God.
I get there, and you know, I obviously um with talking to our coach Brant, I had kind of known that he was looking for two people for that graduation year, and so my first interaction actually was before the recruiting trip, but it was at that Jordan Spieth event. And
Okay.
so Will was there, and he seemed to know everyone. Like he was talking
Yes.
to everyone and running around and all this stuff and whatever. And I was like, who is it? And he's like, oh, like no, like you know, I'm Will, like and this that, like I'm gonna go to Sam Houston. I think he had maybe already committed or like that kind of thing. So we end up going on a recruiting trip, and he's there, I'm there. We ended up having a really good time and whatnot, but of course, just kind of from like two very different kind of not necessarily upbringings, but we're just very different people
Yeah.
at the time, and so he was always giving me something to laugh about and whatnot. I'm sitting in a like a home cooking like southern type restaurant trying to figure out what chicken fried steak is, and he's already got
Yes.
his order in because I'm the newbie. So he, you know, I definitely was coming into his neck of the woods, but that's when I met Will for the first time.
Oh my gosh. I could
Yeah.
not think. And he is man, you two, just because I've been around both of you on golf courses, and you two are not on the golf course at least not very similar,
No.
and I mean, wow, I don't even
Yeah.
know where to begin with that one, but
Yeah, and the fact that we spent a whole year rooming together our
oh
freshman year
oh my God,
as well.
this is
Yeah.
getting even better. I mean,
Yeah.
wow,
So
how did you find the apartment? Because I'm sure there was camouflage painted all over the walls. I mean, how do you even find the place?
yeah, he you know, we ended up rooming together, and our coach put us together. We were the only two freshmen and whatnot. So we had to stay in dorms our first year, and yeah, we ended up being roommates and whatnot. And we spent more and more time together, and we got closer and closer as the years went on. We didn't spend a ton of time together in the beginning. Obviously, we were together a lot with traveling
Sure.
and training and playing. But you know, I think we were honestly, like looking back, and you know, if you asked him what meeting me was like, we were still very interested in beating each other in
Sure.
competing and that kind of thing. And once we kind of got past that, the like doors of friendship opened, and we realized like how much we could help each other. So I was able to take something from him, he was able to maybe take something from me, and we were able to actually, I think, become pretty good leaders at Sam Houston. And so that was really, really cool. As funny as he is, as ridiculous as he is, or whatever, he's the man, and we're definitely great friends now. But it was a fun 4 years, that's for sure. And yeah, no, it was great.
It's got to be hard to study for finals in the dorm when your roommate's skinning a deer, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's got to be
yeah.
tough. All right, so
Uh,
give me the Will Holcomb story that you teased,
yeah,
that you told me about earlier, and then we'll actually talk about you and your what's going on with you. But it's just too good. So
no, it's great. Yeah, I had one come to mind right away, and I think we kind of maybe brought it up in it. You might have to be there to find it really, really funny. But if you've, you know, for the people that have been in the Texas area, we were heading up to Trinity Forest,
okay,
and it was this year there was a ton of rain, and we ended up not getting a practice round. We were just able to walk the golf course when we arrived. But there's there's water, along roads, like all the way up to the roads, like not to where they're flooded, but it was brutal. So we were trying to find a place to practice while we were on our way up, and we ended up stopping at this public golf course. I would imagine it's called the Brickyard, and it's like I want to say it's maybe closer to Dallas than it is Huntsville. But anyways, we end up we play 9 holes, like we hit a couple balls to warm up. Or no, we didn't. We went right to the tee. And there's this long par five. I remember there's like a maybe like a creek through the middle, and then this really big elevated green, and you kind of were hitting back up to it. So I think all of us had hit our balls up on the green and on the proper level, except for Will. And so we're all up there, and I don't know why, but like our travel outfit was for some reason like a white shirt.
Oh no.
And so so we're up there and we hear him like hit a shot, and like we don't see a ball, and we're like, oh, that's kind of funny. And so we kind of get over a little bit closer and he hits it. I think he hits the shot again or something, and then we hear him, and I guess he had fallen and kind of like slid down the hill a bit. But we see a golf bag fly up, like he threw his clubs, like his whole bag, like everything together, up onto the top tier because he was slipping, falling, like trying to make his way up the hill. And so, anyways, his clubs get tossed up. They land on their side, like just on the fringe or off the side of the green. And he walks up the hill, like front of white shirt, brown, like just a total mess.
Oh my
and
God.
it was a perfect storm, if you will. But we killed ourselves laughing. And that's like the first time I think I've told the story since. You might have had to be there, but like out of nowhere, like we heard 2 swings maybe. We didn't hear any choice words, but we definitely heard some talking because it was Will. And then we saw a bag fly up like near the putting surface. We're like, okay, great. And he comes up the hill just covered in mud, and
That's
it was
awesome.
It was pretty good. It was really, really good. So that's the first one I thought of, and thought that'd be a good one to share.
That's perfect.
He'll appreciate that.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. See, I was expecting maybe to hear like he showed up at a golf course wearing waders or something.
Oh shoot, no,
yeah.
I don't think he ever did that. No, I don't think he did that.
Oh
but
my gosh, that guy is a beauty. He is one of my all-time favorites. Whenever I see him, oh my gosh, just. He's the best. He's the best.
He's a good man.
And you guys are going to be, I can easily see you guys just, like I picture Zurich Classic, you two. I mean, that's got to be
Hammond and Aganen.
Oh yeah.
That would be great. That would be very, very fun. I would love that.
Predicting it now. It's going to happen.
I like it.
Give it a year, maybe 2, something like that, but it's going to happen. So now you graduate. Now, a lot of conversations lately with collegiate players. You have some that are coming back for COVID years, some that didn't. That's kind of been the story this season. You graduate, have that opportunity to come back for a year. You have a great career at Sam Houston, picking up, wins and conference accolades. I mean, you have this great career, and you have the opportunity to do so, where you can come back and benefit from that, and keep things going at Sam Houston. You decide not to. So. This is a little bit different than maybe the norm lately. A lot of people are like, okay, I'm going to come back and continue playing. Talk to me and maybe kind of bring listeners into the thought process of, okay, I have this, but I'm not going to take it, weighing the pros and cons. Like, what was kind of your approach to that decision?
Yeah. So when that, my college career was cut a little short. I was actually just recently in San Diego, back in California for the first time, and in San Diego ended up being where my last event was played. And I remember landing. I'm like, oh, like I never thought like landing here, this was going to be the place I played my last event. I thought it was going to be at absolute worst conference, maybe like a regional or whatever. So anyways, things finished up in, I guess March of 2020. I graduated May of 2020, and then had this decision to make. So, I thought a lot about it. This was actually the year that I made Team Canada, our national amateur team, for the first year. I think I was in my first year. So I was going to be going into my second year on the team.
Okay.
So what that means is, as a part of Team Canada, we're funded by Sport Canada and that kind of thing. So it was going to open up some doors for me to have the ability to travel and play tournaments and stuff like that, and play a fuller schedule and whatnot. And that's kind of what I was preparing to do when I left school.
Okay.
So I kind of had these thoughts that, that'll be great. Those are opportunities that I'm, I want to take advantage of. I have there's a lot of tournaments that I didn't really play in summers. I kind of have my college schedule, and that was it. So I had that, and I was like, okay, but there's this opportunity to go back to school. I had gotten my degree and graduated, and I kind of felt like it was not the way that I wanted to end, but the way that it was supposed to. And I had thought about it a lot, and I was back home, and I had a great call with my coach, and obviously he wanted me to come back and that kind of thing, but was in full support of me just doing what was best for me. So I felt that not going back and taking that was the chance for me to kind of put myself in positions that I had not yet been in. And now on the flip side, that was definitely the right choice for me. There's things that I've learned, and there's a lot of things you need to manage in high level amateur golf, or just in anything that you're kind of doing more on your own, and managing and planning, and whether from like accommodation standpoint, all that stuff that I didn't realize was really there because my college coach did it all. So
Right.
it was it was a great prepper for what my next step was going to be whenever it was time or will be time to turn pro. So that's a little bit jumbled, but I kind of had to go ahead because I had some thinking going into the end of my fourth year already kind of in place. I was like, okay, this is kind of what I'm thinking of doing and whatnot. And I decided that sticking to that was best for me. So I didn't take that fifth year, and I think it's a great opportunity that it's there. I know there's lots of people that would say if I could have one next year, I'd take it right away, and I think that's great. But it just depends on the person, and that kind of thing. So that's where I was at with my decision, and that's kind of how it took place.
Yeah, and I'm glad you kind of walked through that, because the thing is that if you really aren't there, because like Henry Shemp, Henry Shemp was just recently a guest on the Back of the Range. He's at Stanford. He went back. He's working on a master's program. That is
Okay.
that's something that he's working towards. But I guess if you're using that year just to prolong and just to tread water, maybe you're just not learning. Of course, you're getting more golf in and more tournaments, and everything's there in front of you. Like you said, your coaching staff and your university are basically setting the schedule for you. But it's kind of prolonging the inevitable. And I'm guessing your thought process is, let's just get started so I can learn how to eventually become a professional.
Yeah, exactly. And I when it came to like the school thing for me, I didn't want to start something I wasn't gonna,
Right.
maybe be able to finish. And putting in the time, or kind of running off of a schedule that wasn't set by me. I've always, it just ended up fitting me, and I think that now, being removed from it, I'm a structured kind of routine type person, and I think I've thrived more. Even I learned a lot from how things were taken care of, and how we managed schedule at school. But then I was able to create a schedule that was more so better for me, and then challenge myself and whatnot. And then I think I've benefited from that, rather than settling back into something that was familiar. Kind of taking that step, and kind of jumping and just seeing what was going to happen, and just kind of go in with an open mind of stuff that I didn't really know how any of it was going to look. I just knew I was going to be playing pretty much all events that I had maybe never played before, and it was going to be moving me toward my next step. So I think that kind of resembles a little bit how I approach things in junior golf, to where I'm like, you know what, right now, like, people wonder why the heck I'm not playing tournaments in Canada. It's like,
Right.
well, I'm not thinking about right now. Like, I'm thinking about, hey, like, this is the process to get to what the next big step is for me. And then, I feel like everything at school, yeah, there were some big moments in there, but those were all little steps, process things, whatever, to then take the next big step to that. So I felt like it was time for me to do that. And it just worked out well.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of your tournament finishes as an amateur, and if COVID would have canceled the college season just a few days earlier, your very last collegiate event would have been your win at the Border Olympics.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
now your final is a 44th place. So sorry. Sorry to
Yeah.
sorry to bring the episode
Exactly.
sorry to bring the episode to a screeching halt there, but
Yeah.
numbers don't lie. So we're going to move
No,
past it. We're going to move
they
past
don't
that.
lie.
We're going to move past that. Obviously 2020 was just at that point everything's pretty much shut down. I mean, you played a couple
Yeah.
tournaments here and there. Obviously you got to go out to Bandon Dunes. That's where I saw you
Yeah.
at the US Amateur. That obviously was such a blast, but So I want to talk a little bit about 2021 because
Mhm.
you're right now you're talking, and people listening, if they're not really paying attention closely, they would think, oh well, this guy's a pro now. He turned pro. Not the case. You are still an amateur, and I'm looking at now. You have your first full year. You're with Team Canada. I definitely want you to explain a little bit about what they've done for you that has allowed you to kind of stay an amateur, but maybe set your schedule as if you were a professional. I mean, you've played Jones Cup this year, Zalia, Terracotta. I saw you there. Saw you at the Western. So you've played this really great schedule of amateur events, and then now playing some Mackenzie Tour events recently as still as an amateur. What has Team Canada done to allow you or to assist you in kind of going and setting a schedule as if you were a professional, but still keeping your amateur status?
Yeah, I've been able. I've actually said to a few people, well, I'm a professional amateur golfer. I'm a professional
I
golfer
know a
as an
lot of guys
amateur.
like
Like
that.
I'm,
I know a lot of
yeah,
guys like that, but they're in their
yeah,
40s, and
that love it
that's a
exactly.
different world. Yeah, go ahead.
It
Sorry.
is. Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, so no, I was basically I had the whole year, and I didn't really know where things were gonna end up. As we near kind of the end of 2021, when I was going into 2021. But basically the plan and the goal was like, let's play everything. Let's kind of get our hands dirty. Let's put me in all kinds of new positions. Let's put you on the road for a bunch of weeks in a row. Let's bounce from an event to an event to an event, and let's see what happens. Going into the year and whatnot, that's something that I hadn't really experienced. I had played maybe 3 events in a row, maybe had a week off, and played another one. Like when we were in school, and we sometimes would have a kind of a cram college schedule. But that was something I had never really dealt with or experienced, and I didn't really have a true taste, of what that was like, or what it's like, on, the Mackenzie Tour, Latin America, or Corn Ferry Tour, or PGA Tour, where guys are playing a lot of weeks in a row and managing all that.
Right.
So Golf Canada, I mentioned that earlier, with kind of being some preliminary thoughts of how I was going to move into my next year if COVID year was never even ever a thing. I knew that I was going to be out of school, and I was going to be done with that, and it was now just going to be time to focus on my playing, my practicing, my training, and basically training as a professional golfer, or kind of learning more of what that might be like. So I put together a schedule with Derek Ingram. He's our head coach. And yeah, and I got into it. So Golf Canada basically, they played a big role in providing the financial support and funding to travel and play, and represent the country as well, and our sponsors. But they've provided me with the opportunity to travel, play, and take care of a lot of the expenses to do so. And then yeah, I prepare and go compete and see what happens. So that's yeah, that's kind of the basics of how the things looked starting the year, and then kind of how we've progressed through to now. It's just they're basically able to provide us with the support,
Right.
kind of on all levels, from obviously the physical. We have our head coach, assistant coach, Derek Ingram, Andrew Parr, and then our trainer PT is Greg Redmond, and our sports psych is Adrian Toogood. So we kind of have the support from kind of all areas, and we have a few camps a year. So we have usually a New Year camp over American Thanksgiving, because none of us are American. It's an opportunity for us to be off
There you
school when we
go.
were in school, so we could all meet up in Arizona. And then in January, we'd have a New Year camp. So after Christmas, we would meet in Arizona, kind of that for 5 days, like that first week. Then everyone would go back to school, and then we would progress from there. And then we might see one of our coaches, head coach or assistant coach, at an event throughout the season. Sometimes we would have a couple of us at each event, and it would work, and they could kind of get together with us, kind of help us, not necessarily work us around a golf course in the way that they would in college, but more so just be there, from a support standpoint, get to know us more and how they could maybe help us more. So, long-winded answer, but hope that makes sense.
No, that does. I think that's great. And that's obviously not something that is, you don't really get that a lot in the States. I mean, it sounds more like it's a, that sounds more of what, obviously you're no stranger to what you had at Sam Houston, but it sounds more that you're on just a very comprehensive team like you were in college, like a big D1 powerhouse. You have a lot behind you. I think that's great.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's really what it is. And we're provided with great support and a lot of great opportunity in there. And that's really what has allowed me to do what I have since leaving school, has been their support and guidance.
Well, if they are looking for any 40-year-old Floridians that can kind of break 76 at will, you let me know. I mean, I'll whatever I got to do. Don't ask me to skate though, because that's just going to be awful. That's no one needs to see that. Now I'm looking too at your schedule in 21, and you kind of had starting at Sunny Hannah, which is in early June. I don't think you've had more than a week off playing tournaments. So you really have jumped in and done everything. I mean, I think you've had a week off here and there, but for the most part, you're playing every week and doing a lot of traveling. So we're going to kind of pivot into how you have, what challenges you've figured out, and then what you're doing to keep yourself in condition and in shape to play this kind of a schedule, because this is not what college players are dealing with right now. This is pretty unique or pretty specialized into what professionals deal with. And, a lot of the, just to break off on a quick tangent, a lot of the college guys that I've seen these last couple tournaments of the fall season, a lot of them are like, yeah, I'm done. I am burnt. I need to put the clubs away, but you have not you've not done that. You've actually put the hammer down. So, what have you learned about yourself to kind of get yourself, acclimated to this?
Yeah, it was kind of let's go, like I said, like let's go all in. Let's take a leap and let's see what happens. And my game honestly felt really good going into Sunny Hannah. We had a camp before that event, and I was like, things were either going to go really well, or I was going to end up having the summer that I had. It's kind of the way that I like to think of it. So my game felt great. I got off to a nice start at Sunny Hannah, and it was kind of a play 54 holes. Then they would cut, you play the last round. And I shot a handful over par the third day and ended up not having a tee time the final round. And I was like, whoa.
Whoops.
What just happened? Because I had played really nice. I was actually up within striking distance to move kind of into contention, even going to the last round. And I threw myself out of position, and that kind of smoked me. Looking back, I was like, wow, like that was weird. And I, for a long time, when I would play an event, because I wasn't playing a ton outside of school, I was like, oh, like this is my one chance. Like I need to play well. I need to make the most of it. And I weighed a lot on each individual event. And I hadn't yet played enough, even with playing, Jones Cup, Azalea, Terracotta, that kind of thing. I hadn't yet played enough events together where I realized that it's going to happen. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to maybe miss a cut. All these things that you see other people do, like it happens. Golf is hard.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the start of things. And then I went from there to Pinehurst. And I had a very similar week. I struggled. And I was managing actually the things off the golf course a little better than I thought I would. I've always been a structured person and whatnot, and kind of like to know what's coming up, when I'm coming and going, and kind of the scheduling of things. And really the whole summer, let's say I played pretty consistently from June all the way through October. It's all really taught me is that, that you're going to be fine. Like you're going to figure it out. It's going to be, no big deal. Like there's other options. So like if a flight would get canceled, or if this would happen or whatever, like, a year or two ago, that would have maybe thrown me for a loop a little bit, but I actually managed the off course kind of being my own agent part, I managed
Yeah.
that a lot better than I thought. But I felt like, and I felt like I was doing the right things to play good quality golf and have a chance to do so. But that part wasn't working out. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so I was grinding away. And obviously lots of conversations with close friends, family, coaches and stuff. And just kind of pecking away at the process of things. And I got to the Western, and I felt I didn't feel that great maybe going in, but I saw some good things the week before at the Porter Cup, and so I was learning how like weeks before were great learning lessons. And I know our head coach Derek Ingram would say, we were on the learning team this week, and if I played poorly, I was like, oh, I
Interesting.
lost.
Okay.
I lost. I didn't play the way that I should. Like, I'm terrible, that kind of thing. Like I didn't, maybe have that harsh of an attitude all the time. It's not really me, but I was like, wow, like, that makes sense. Like let's look at these kind of misses of, missing cuts or not playing the way that you want or not shooting the numbers you want. Let's look at those as oh, it's another learning lesson or another feather in your cap, rather than just thinking, wow, like when is it going to turn around? Like, you can actually use all that stuff. So I learned that, hey, like, you need to kind of process it, think about it. And then when I'm going to the airport, when I get on the next plane, that week's over, let's do a new week. Let's learn from the previous, make some notes and move on. So I was able to get more of a feel for that and realize that, oh, like a miscut wasn't a wasted week. It maybe wasn't what you were looking for, but there's a lot to learn there. So I played the Western, and I felt okay kind of going in, and again played very mediocre, and I kind of hit a bit of a tipping point for myself and was a little bit frustrated, like kind of post stroke play, because I was watching a couple of my friends who, of course, I wanted them to play well, but it was hard for me to watch them be competing and know that I wanted to be there as well,
Right.
and that kind of thing. So those were just some other things that I was dealing with. But I think I just felt, and I was talking to a couple people, I remember saying that, like, I'm close, like I'm doing the right things, like it's a matter of time, like it's going to come around. And so I honestly just, at that point, I felt like I had weathered a lot. Like I felt like I had dealt with a lot of new things. I had felt like I had learned a lot about my game. I had learned a lot about tendencies and how to deal with things. And so then I go back to Canada and play the Canadian Am, and I played really nice golf, and I think I was 15 under through the 3 rounds, and I had a chance to win. And that was like the polar opposite. I felt in total control of my game. I felt like everything felt great. But it all felt like it was there because of the previous, because of the harder times and
Gotcha. Okay.
whatnot. And then that bled into the rest of what happened with the Mackenzie Tour. So I feel like my summer and going into all that, it taught me a ton, and I learned a ton, and that allowed me to find a better version of myself, but also my game, and kind of put things more into perspective. So I learned through the process and the journey of playing a lot. I learned that, when you're not playing that well, you probably want to keep playing so that you can work your way through it and get competitive reps. And then when you're playing well, you want to keep playing also, because you can kind of ride the wave and maybe continue to post some good rounds and maybe have some good finishes.
Well,
Um,
and it
so
sounds to me that the biggest takeaway from that, and it's very well said and very valuable, and I know people listening are going to take. I mean, what I'm taking away from it is, one of the biggest things you want to avoid is just having a week where you're slamming the trunk. I missed the cut. You get upset, and then you just say, "All right, where am I going now?" Instead of actually taking the time to really, rip the Band-Aid off and dig
yeah,
deep and say, okay, what happened there?
yeah,
And not in a negative way, but like, okay, let's unpack this and not say, okay, I got to fix that. I'm missing too many fairways. I got to fix that. Instead of
yeah,
that, just saying, okay, well, how'd that happen? And then I'm also thinking about the fact that you've never played a schedule like this before. You've never
Never.
played this much golf. That's one of the things. A lot of these, like I said, I've had a lot of guys on the podcast that have now turned professional, and they're like, I'd play a tournament, and then we'd go back to campus for a couple weeks, and I'd sleep in my own bed, and my mind would be off the game. I would take my classes, and I'd practice with the guys, and then we'd go. We'd have weekends with the buddies, but no, this is kind of like your job now. So, what is maybe something that you just all encompassingly for like the entire year that you've learned, not just successes or failures or whatever, what's one thing that you have learned that is helping you move forward that you've just kind of, I know it's hard to pick one thing, but maybe what's one thing you identified?
Yeah. One kind of, I guess, well-rounded thought that I've come to would be you need to be patient in whatever you're doing, patient in the process of what you're going through, whether that's a tough time playing or even being patient when you're playing well. So when you're playing well, you're like, sometimes you're like, oh, like, gotta, do this, do that. Like you kind of hurry yourself to just staying patient, embrace every challenge that kind of comes towards you. And you gotta be positive. The game is way too hard. You gotta do your best to find a way to be positive, or at least kind of see the good in things, because spending all that time on the road, and like you said, I'd never done that before. I had a lot of time by myself, a lot of time where I was just figuring things out, and to have that when you're not playing that well, you need to know why you're there. You need to know why you're putting yourself through it. And if people ask you, hey, do you enjoy it? You should be able to say, I love it. Like this, like I've wanted to do this forever. I have the opportunity to do it. It's not maybe going how I want, but we're going to figure it out. So I think you need to be patient. I think you need to be positive and just kind of embrace, kind of whatever's being thrown at you. And I honestly, I told myself a lot throughout different events, even in good situations where I felt my heart going and I needed to kind of reel myself back in. And even in tough times, I was like, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. And, it's what you want to do. So it's what you practice for. So why, step on a tee shot and be afraid? Just go all in, see what happens. If it goes great, it goes great. If not, we got something else to learn from. So, I would say that's kind of like the all encompassing big picture kind of look that I try to now take into, every day, but my playing as well, mainly.
Yeah, and the other thing I keep thinking of too is when you're trying to chase it, when you don't meet expectations, the natural reaction is, well, I got to practice harder. I got to play more. I got to hit more balls. I got to hit more putts. I have to get in the gym more. I have to do more. And as someone that's trying to just get into, I know you're not a pro yet, but it's where you're going, as someone that's trying to build a career, how do you actually tell yourself, no, I have to actually have a balanced life a little bit. I can't just be on the golf course all the time because I haven't gotten to where I'm trying to get yet. That's got to be a kind of that's got to mess with your mind too, of saying, no, it's okay that I can, I can binge watch a couple hours of Netflix and not have it affect my psyche where I'm a lazy bum. I'm actually just, unplugging for a while.
Exactly. You have to find balance, have other things that interest you. And, golf can always be what you do, but it can't be you.
Yep.
And so I absolutely agree, with the balance and that being important, and, keeping things in perspective. No, you're absolutely right. And there's a time too now, if you can honestly answer the question, I can't do more. That's where I was at. Like that was the conversation I had with someone at the Western, where I'm like, I don't know what else I can do. Like other than doing the same things and waiting for it to maybe turn itself around. And there was my answer. I'm like, well, it might be next week. It might be 3 months. It might be a year. A year would be long. It would feel long, but it could even be longer. But it's like, how long are you going to be able to stay in the game for? How long are you going to keep kind of being able to grind away until things kind of move in the direction that you're looking for? As long as you can answer the question, am I doing all that I can? If you feel like you're doing all that you can and you feel like you can't do more, well, then you're capped out. Then that's where you're like, I'm going to keep doing the same things, or I'm going to maybe maybe you're trying a little bit too hard. So
Yeah.
you definitely need to be able to assess kind of where you're at. And no, I agree that the answer is not always I need to hit more balls, I need
Yeah.
to putt more, I need to do this or that. Like, sometimes it's just not your time.
Yeah. Well, you did have. We don't want to paint paint a picture that you're barely able to find the center of the club face, because you have well, in a good way, you've actually complicated things a little bit for yourself, because you win as an amateur on the Mackenzie Tour just a handful of weeks ago. Find yourself in the top 5, so you have secured yourself as an amateur full status in 2022 on the Mackenzie Tour. So congrats for that.
Thank you very much.
I know you're now heading over to PGA Tour Latin America Q School, so you're attempting to get status on that tour, still staying as an amateur. So maybe, before we, kind of talk about some of the things you're doing off the golf course that allows you to, kind of run this really aggressive schedule, talk to me about maybe what's your plan for the next, I don't know, 6 months, 3 months, however far out you've thought. Walk me through your approach to, getting your professional career started while staying an amateur right now. So, explain that to me and maybe to listeners, so they can kind of understand, what your process is right now.
Yeah. So following my win in Toronto, that changed kind of the direction of things a lot, and I actually didn't realize the opportunities that it could maybe present down the road. So a couple of people from the tour said, "Hey, you can accept all of the other benefits other than the prize money, basically, or the checks." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So they're like, "You might want to make these events a priority going forward, and see if you can get in the top 5." And I was fortunate enough to have that happen. And I remained amateur throughout all of them. There's no guarantees. So like, there are people ask for, "Are you going to turn pro in the next 24 hours?"
Right.
And it's like, no, probably not. And that kind of thing. So it just, at the time, I actually had a few amateur events. So I had the Irish Amateur Open, and I had even like the South Beach in December. I had those 2 events planned, and I was planning on playing those even after playing my Mackenzie Tour events. And then following earning my card there, I kind of changed. I changed kind of my plans that way. And actually, this year's, I think, new Latin Q School is in November. So it's I think it's normally in January or something like that.
Okay.
At least from what I've been told. So that's what really changed my mind on those amateur events. And I'm like, you know what, I'm in a position now that, yes, I'm an amateur, but I have earned this, and this is coming. I'm going to play Latin Q School. So my plans moving forward are, yes, to play a full schedule on the Canadian Tour, see what I'm able to do at Latin Q School, and at best case scenario, play both tours. So my plan will be to turn pro very soon. Either leading up to Latin Q School, or even just following, depending. And then the first 2 Latin events are the first 2 weeks of December. So I could potentially be making kind of my first starts that early if things happen to go as planned, if you will. So
Nice.
That's kind of the plan going forward, but definitely turning pro very soon. And the main goal going forward is to earn full status on Latin, and have the opportunity to play both tours, which would be, again, very, very busy, but a great learning opportunity. So
I mean, frequent flyer miles all over the place.
I wasn't even like grabbing those from like our coach in college. And I know there's people that are smarter than me and are doing what they can to get that, but I'm definitely racking up some now. So that's been fun.
It's funny is that a lot of guys, when they turn pro, they're trying to get all these sponsor deals, and I see them wearing logos on their shirt. And a lot of times, you're not too familiar with what the company is, but they're offering something. Man, I'd be knocking down some sort of a Marriott sponsorship or a Hertz rental car. Man, I would jump all. That's actually if I don't have sponsors here at the back of the range, but if I had to pick, I would get. Southwest Airlines. Well, I have more Southwest airline points than God. So, so Southwest, give me a rental car, give me a hotel, and you'd
be set.
I'm set.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna close the episode out in a little bit. I know we've talked about a lot. It's been fantastic insight that you provided, but I wanted to ask you. I know one big thing, which it's big for it's very important, obviously for anyone, but especially for a professional athlete, is fitness. And I know that's something that is something. I know that is something that is very important to you. You've brought it into kind of your preparation to chase down being a successful pro, and I know that it whether it's too much fitness or lifting heavy, and how does it affect your game? I know Bryson DeChambeau gets a little bit of publicity about that, not much, but just a little bit. And you hear that sometimes. But how do you approach your fitness, and how has it affected and helped your your game, your overall fitness? Maybe kind of explain what that's done for you.
Yeah, if yeah, for sure. If you know me well, definitely known for enjoying the gym and enjoying fitness, and that's definitely grown the last probably 3 or 4 years. I would say it's been a pretty major focus, and become more of like a part of my life than just something that I do because
Right.
it benefits my my sport per se. You mentioned balance, like it's provided that for me.
So you're not just in the gym because I want to gain swing speed.
No, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
it was honestly, it was more about protecting myself in the beginning, and I kind of explored a lot of different ways of doing that. I did find CrossFit 3 or 4 years ago, and there's definitely elements of that I don't entertain and don't do just from a safety standpoint.
Right.
I do need all parts of my body to be able to function in order to play the game at a high level and be ready to play the game. There's a lot of things that I do love about it and whatnot, but that is kind of the methodology that I kind of utilize and kind of wrap things into. But no, I have friends that are all into CrossFit,
Maniacs.
and it's impressive to watch. Like it's amazing, but it could have a little bit more of an effect on me and what I do.
Sure.
So honestly, I've messed around with various amounts of intensity, whether it's training, 6-7 days a week and not really giving myself much rest, and seeing what that's like. I've had times where it's been a little bit more quiet and it's been very kind of mobility, stretching, kind of focused. I've had periods of time where it's like 3 days a week, and I've kind of been trying to just find what's best for me. Of course, there's that long stretch we had where I wasn't really playing a lot with the beginnings of COVID and everything. That's where things really ramped up, and I think made a bit of a turn with things. I did get stronger. I did get a little bit bigger and that kind of thing, but that actually all just, it helped me be more consistent, and I think even aware of like how I move, and allowed me to keep those things in check a lot more. I actually had like less aches and pains as I move and train than I do when I don't. So I've definitely learned that I feel my best when I move. It's just about for each individual finding like what makes you feel your best. If it's jumping on a bike, if it's going for a walk, if it's going for a run, whether it is something like various forms of functional fitness or whatever, or if it's bodybuilding, whatever it is. Obviously, you want it to benefit, what you're trying to do. But for me, it's provided the balance. But I've been able to kind of figure out what works best for me. So kind of giving myself a little bit more rest and being nice to myself on the road. This past summer helped me figure that out because I came from a relatively high intensity, high training volume approach leading into the summer. So I feel like that helped me prolong how I felt throughout the summer and like kept me together. But I still made it a point to move for 20 or 25 minutes each day outside of golf, whether that's some body weight stuff, whether I could grab onto some bands, whether I had access to a gym. There's sometimes, set of dumbbells at a hotel or whatever. So just would kind of make it work, but I would kind of go a little bit by feel, in that kind of thing, and go from there. But I think the consistency is the main thing throughout the week, and in the midst of a lot of things being unfamiliar, keeping certain things a constant is important when you're on the road. So if you're used to working out and you're on the road and you're like, oh, I don't have anything, like having a jump rope, having some bands, your body is a great tool as well. There's all kinds of terrible things that you can do from a body weight standpoint to get a good workout in. So I think the consistency is important, and in giving your body the predictability in the midst of things that you can't control. So that's been a big help. And that's kind of how I approach things. So I've definitely tried lots of different things, and am open to various forms of activity and movement. But yeah, that's kind of how I do it, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And body weight, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've been talking for an hour, and I've been holding a plank position for nearly 55 minutes, which is starting to get a little painful. But a little bit of burn.
It's
nice. A little bit of a burn, but
you've held the voice together though. No shaking, no chattering.
No, it's great. Yeah, it's all
casual.
Yeah, well, you got to be in shape to be a podcaster. So
you do.
All right, so we'll end this episode with, now all this lifting requires you to fuel the body. So let me ask this question. What's going to give you more concern? Leaving a wedge on the range and having to play without it, or playing a round of golf without any snacks in the bag?
Oh, I'll figure out how to hit the right shot. I need snacks. Yeah, that's an easy one for me. I'll get that later, or even if someone takes it, I'll figure out how to bump and run something or do whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely need the snacks, or I might not make it through the round.
Okay.
So making it through the round is more important.
So
I would say
you need a lot. You need a lot going on in there. So it's a whole grocery store in the bag.
There's a grocery store present in the bag for sure. Definitely a peanut butter and honey sandwich. That's in there for sure.
Oh my gosh.
One per 9 is usually the style.
Wow, really? So, peanut butter and honey, 1 through 9.
1 per 9.
One per 9. Wow.
1 per 9. Yeah, I like to eat and I need it. So
that's a lot.
So yeah, that helps. Yeah.
Is there, now it sounds, I mean, so actually you do eat a carb every once in a while. Is there something on the road that you have found in your travels that, I mean, I could ask you the standard question of like, what's your go-to snack, but I don't want to ask that. I want to know what is just the absolute, I need to eat something that's terrible for me, but that's just going to make me feel better. I mean, I can't even fathom that you are rolling into a fast food restaurant. I mean, I just can't see that happening.
No, I will.
Or like, what's the dire situation you found yourself in on the road? Like, I'm so hungry, and the only thing open is, there's nothing open. Like what's the dire situation?
I will go out of my way to find a Chipotle, first of all.
Okay, sure.
Absolutely love Chipotle, but honestly, like my last like dire situation moment was like basically a last resort McDonald's, and I hadn't had McDonald's in years. Not because like I'm against it or anything.
Right.
Just, if there's other choices, I'm just probably going to pick something else. But I grabbed like I don't know what it is, like a 10, 20 pack of like McNuggets or something. And I just hammered away on that.
And then your body just goes into complete shutdown.
Awful. Oh yeah, I felt like I felt like all I had ate was breading. And that was it. It was awful. But hey, it got me through, and I'm still here. So
there you go.
It's all good. Yeah.
Well, this flew by. I knew it would. Really appreciate the really walking us through, because it is kind of an interesting journey where not just where you started and then where you went to college, but now you're not typically going the college golf to pro. You had this little shoulder, which obviously is paying off great dividends. I appreciate you stopping by the back of the range, Noah. I'm sure we're going to need to do this again soon. I can't wait to follow your upcoming travels, and all the best at Q School. And I appreciate you stopping by the back of the range.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's awesome seeing you at events. It's been awesome seeing you at events, and thank you so much for having me on and for your time.
And there you have it. Special thanks to Noah Steele for joining me on this episode here at the back of the range. As always, go check out Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Every single episode is available at thebackoftherange.com, and we'll see you next time here at the Back of the Range.